I still get a knot in my stomach when I think about this period in my business. I ran a digital agency that was successful on paper. We had clients, we were making money, but in the background, it was complete and utter chaos. This one time we had this project that was supposed to be our big break. It was for this really, really well-known real estate agent that if we did a good job, we'd be able to get real estate agent websites consistently after that. We estimated 6 weeks to get done. By week 18, we were not even close to being completed. Every morning, I wake up with a fresh batch of emails with new requests for revisions, changes to previous changes, and increasingly rude demands about when it would all be done. My developers were working overtime. My designers were redoing the same pages over and over again. And I was caught in the middle trying to make everybody happy. I remember sitting in my car in the parking lot before driving home, seriously just thinking about driving away and never coming back. I was that close to just giving up. Instead, I took that Friday off. It was Memorial Day weekend, so I had 4 days to do something that I should have done the first time I had a project blow up in my face. I analyzed what was going wrong with all of my projects, not just this one. I looked for patterns, common failure points, and root causes to these. What emerged was a revelation. The problem wasn't our technical skills or design skills. The problem wasn't even our clients. The problem was how I managed expectations from the very beginning, from the sales call all the way through every stage of the project. I ended up developing what I have now as a framework that I use for every single website project. I tested it, I refined it, and I watched in amazement as I never had projects spiral out of control again. They began to run smoothly, get finished on time, and more importantly, make me money, make me profitable. Because some of them got so bad, if you've been through it before, you know, you end up losing money. You're still paying people to do work, and you're not getting any more extra money for it. Today, I'm going to share this exact same framework with you, the system that saved my agency and my sanity. This is exactly why my projects were going wrong. I had this client, call her Marie, hired me to build her website for her. During the sales call, I was just so focused on closing the deal that I just glossed over everything. I glossed over the timeline, the process, how it's going to be working with me. I told her we can get this done in 30 days, no problem. When she asked for a feature that wasn't in the original scope, I was like, yeah, sure, we got your back, no problem. I never told her about the timeline is going to be taking longer. Never even thought to ask for more money. I was just so focused on her being happy, and I thought like mentioning any of those things would make her unhappy. After setting up the site, I gave her the development URL, had her go through it, said, hey, give me a list of revisions. The result? Not so good. The project dragged on for months, cost me thousands in extra work, and left both of us pretty pissed off at each other. But what I found out was the problem wasn't Marie. The problem was me. I failed to set proper expectations in the beginning. I failed to readjust those expectations as changes were made in the project or in the middle of the project. And that's when I realized that the success of a project is determined before it even starts by how clearly you set and manage expectations. After dealing with 3 blow-ups really close to each other, I developed this framework that completely changed how I dealt with website projects. And here's what it looked like. Phase 1, setting expectations during the sales call. This is where most of my projects went wrong. I was so eager to close the deals that I made promises I couldn't keep, or I glossed over important information, not wanting to create objections before I collected funds. I changed my approach completely. On every sales call, I started walking potential clients through the exact project flow from start to finish, a visual project roadmap, clear boundaries around revisions and scope, and what I needed from them and when. I remember one of my first calls using this approach, and the prospect asked, hey, can you get this done in 3 weeks? And before I'd have been like, yeah, sure, no problem. This time I said, based on similar projects and my experience, it's going to take about 8 weeks. And here's why. Here's each stage. And this is going to take this amount of time. This is going to take this amount of time. Let me not be vague about it. I would literally say, hey, we're going to schedule, once you sign the contract, we're going to schedule a call. I have no idea when that's going to happen. But once we have that call, I know that we're going to have 3 mock-up designs for you in 1 week. And I don't know how long you're going to take to schedule a call to go through that. But whenever we schedule that call and we have that call, you're going to have some revisions. We're going to go through those together. I have no idea how many of those revisions are. I don't know how long that process is going to take. But I do know that once you approve that, we will start developing it, which usually takes anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. And when we're done developing it, we're going to take a week and test it. And then we're going to have another call and we're going to go through revisions on that portion as well. And I don't know how long that is going to take, how long it's going to take for you to get back to me, to schedule the call, how many revisions there's going to be. So you can see why it could take easily 8 weeks, right? And he agreed. He totally appreciated it. And I'll be honest with you, I was scared as hell. I thought we were going to lose that deal because I was like 8 weeks instead of 3 weeks. That's way too far out. He's going to say no. But he agreed and he appreciated the honesty and he signed the contract that day. Now, phase 2 is reinforcing expectations on the onboarding call. I discovered that clients often forgot almost everything we talked about on the sales call. So for each onboarding call, I recorded all of them. I created a detailed report of what was included in the project from that call. I included that original timeline that we went over on the sales call. I got them to reply and agree to those timelines. I remember this one time on one of those onboarding calls, this guy was like, oh yeah, and I want this, and I want that, and I want this. And we never even talked about that on the sales call. And instead of like awkwardly like agreeing like, okay, sure, or creating conflict by saying no, I said, Tom, that's a great idea. Do you want me to create a work change order and just specify that this is going to push out the project another 30 days and it's going to cost an extra $3,000? Or did you want to put that off till after this project is done? I mean, there was no conflict. It was like he just understood, respected the boundary, and was like, oh no, it's not that big of a deal. We'll put this off till later. And phase 3, maintaining expectations through production. Even with clear expectations at the beginning, things can still go off the rails. The biggest game changer for me was controlling how and when and where clients saw the progression of the project. I stopped giving them mock-ups to look at. Instead, I'd schedule a Zoom call, share my screen, and go over the mock-ups together. I'd go over the revisions on that call, get everything outlined, and say, all right, this is when we get off the call, this is the end of the first round of revisions. You have 2 more rounds left. And I'd go over that visual project timeline again with them. Like, all right, based on these revisions, we're still in alignment on the time frame. Nothing has changed. And of course, I also stopped giving access to the development URL. I used to just, after the design was approved, we developed the site, we'd give it to them and say, hey, look at it tonight and put together a list of revisions. And man, that was just the never ending story. I remember bringing on a new project for a marketing agency, and they were used to having 24 access to the development site, going in there, tweaking stuff. When I told them about my process, they were very skeptical about it. But after we had our first structured review call, they noticed that their feedback was focused and structured and not all like panicky and scattered. The project finished 2 weeks early, and they ended up becoming one of my biggest referral sources. Other key elements that worked for me included conducting structured revision calls, documenting all revision requests, getting all the revisions in one sitting, and being transparent about, that's awkward, being transparent around delays using that visual roadmap, and consistently reminding clients about the progress and timelines. The final phase was setting expectations for the launch and what happens afterwards. So I created a clear launch checklist, established post-launch support parameters, and outlined the process for future changes. I had a client that just assumed we'd be available 24/7 for like 2 weeks after the launch. In the past, I would have reluctantly agreed with them, but with my new framework, I was able to set clear expectations about post-launch support. I said, we provide support during work hours. So Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 Pacific time or Mountain time. I'm in Arizona, so we don't change our time, so it alternates. But I was basically like, hey, during working hours, but we'll get the request done within 24 hours. Unless there's something crazy like the site like an emergency, like the site goes down or you aren't able to collect credit card payments, something that's really affecting you, but most changes 24 hours. And I said, here's exactly what's included with that post-launch support. And it felt so good saying that because I knew that was going to save me from freaking like panic emails and phone calls in the middle of the night. This framework worked because it addressed the root cause to my project problems. Assumed expectations. I realized that most of my project problems, they weren't technical issues, they were people issues. And most people problems stem from either unclear or mismatched expectations. When a client expected a website to be done in 4 weeks and it took 8 weeks, shocker, they were upset. Not necessarily that it took 8 weeks, but because they were expecting it to be done in 4. When a client expected unlimited revisions and I started charging them after 3 rounds, they were upset. Not because 3 rounds wasn't enough, but because they expected unlimited. The framework solved this because we were all on the same page from the beginning all the way to the end. After implementing this framework, my project completion time decreased by 40%. Scope creep was virtually eliminated. Client satisfaction increased dramatically. My team's stress levels and mine plummeted, and my profit margins margins increased by 30 freaking percent. The biggest change is I stopped dreading new client projects. They became predictable, manageable, and even enjoyable. I remember looking at my calendar one day and realizing I didn't have a single fire to put out that day. All my projects were on track, all my clients were happy, and I was about to enjoy the first weekend without any stress. That's when I realized I really had something here with the framework that I created, because it saved my business, my health, and my freaking sanity. It transformed my project from being stress-induced freaking nightmares into smooth and profitable engagements. The key insight that changed everything for me was discovering that success wasn't determined by my technical skills, but by setting the right expectations from the beginning and reestablishing those at every stage of the project. If you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe to follow more videos about my business journey. And drop a comment letting me know if you've ever had to deal with one of these nightmare projects. And if you're serious about building a high-performing team or you want help doing that, make sure you click on the link in the description where I show you how insourcing beats outsourcing 100% of the time. And I will see you in the next video.